Right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chestnut Review 6-3 launch party. I'm so thrilled to be here today with a selection of our editors, our wonderful staff, and of course, some of the amazing contributors to this issue. Um, so, we have a lot of great work to share with you today. And the second half will be a conversation. As people read, please feel free to use emojis in the chat or shout out lines and things that you're enjoying from their pieces. And then afterwards, we'll have a chance to have a full dialogue. So we're going to start with our chapbook author. So Mario Aliberto III is just an amazing writer. He's a former Chestnut contributor, and I was so excited when I saw his chapbook in the queue. So All the Dead We Have Yet to Bury will be out in mid to late February. We're super excited about it, and you can read more. He has an interview with me in this issue, and of course, one of his pieces is also in the issue. So today he's going to be reading The Legend of Panera Pariah. All right, Mario.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And again, if there's any ambient noise, just let me know. It's really windy out today. I'm at a park with my family on vacation. But thank you for letting me read. Very excited about the chapbook and the story that was in the latest issue of Chestnut Review. Here we go. The Legend of Panera Pariah. Before there were no more every other weekends at her father's apartment. Before she remembered it as the last time he brushed her hair off her face and kissed her goodnight. Haley begged her father for a few more stories about growing up in Plant City with his infamous cousin, Panera Pariah. Panera Pariah, her father said, one of their Saturday nights together, his hands stinking of gasoline and lawn clippings as he tucked her into bed, flapped her arms and flew from Plant City to Ybor City alongside a flock of snowy egrets because no one ever bothered to tell her a little girl couldn't fly. Honestly, Kaylee never considered her parents divorced. 10 years old now, alternating weekends with her parents have become a seamless routine. And it wasn't like her parents hated each other. Kaylee's father promised he'd come home when he got right, said he was halfway there. Kaylee held on to the belief he'd make it all the way home someday. As for Kaylee's mother, she still wore her wedding ring. In fact, her mother always said Kaylee's father was the love of her life, but sometimes love wasn't enough to keep people together. Kaylee believed they'd be a family again, right up to the Monday her mother got that phone call. No one had ever cried as hard as her mother when she broke the news to Kaylee, barely able to get the words out. Kaylee's father had been at work, mowing grass for the Plant City lawn crew, went on a 45-degree incline along an embankment of a city culvert. His riding mower flipped, pinning him beneath a foot of water. A mother said it was quick, no pain. In the coming days, an online news article would quote a witness claiming her father drowned before the mower blade stopped spinning. Panera Pariah, her father said, beer, breath beer sweet, eyes glassy red, wore white to funerals and black to weddings because she knew there was a little sweet and a little sad in everything. In the school auditorium, Miss Franklin discussed all the changes a girl's body experienced during puberty. Miss Franklin played a video on the big screen for the sixth grade girls, and they learned all about hair growing in their armpits and on their privates, breast development and menstruation, hormones and reproduction. Miss Franklin taught them everything about when life began, but nothing about when life ended. Sitting in her bedroom, after picking up her things from her father's apartment, Haley wondered all about the important stuff Miss Franklin had left out. What did you do with the duffel bag you no longer needed to pack on Thursday nights? Where did you put the extra hairbrush and toothbrush and set of underwear? The extra pajamas, board games, and nail polish? The second nightlight, the second mattress, the second Nintendo, the second television? What did you do if you had two of everything except two parents? Panera Pariah, her father told her, his eyes glittering in the bedroom nightlight, ate soup with chopsticks and never spilled a drop. The day of her father's celebration of life, Haley picked a white dress to wear, and her mother, instead of fussing over the color, wore white as well. At the funeral home, Haley kept an eye on the door, waiting for her father's cousin to make a grand entrance. On a pedestal at the front of the room, water lilies and chrysanthemums surrounded her father's urns. His ashes had been divided between a large silver urn and a smaller urn about the size of a teacup. The large one for Kaylee, the small one for her grandmother. Panera Pariah, her father had whispered before brushing her hair aside and placing a last kiss upon her cheek, could step through a mirror and play with her reflection. She said that way she was never alone and always had copies of her favorite things. Mourners waited in line to hug Kaylee's mother as if she were a widow. They hugged her grandmother and patted the uncles on the back. Everyone in black. No sign of her father's cousin. People settled in their seats, and one of her uncles stood by her father's urns to speak. But when he began sobbing and couldn't get a word out, Kaylee's mother rushed to his side and told stories. Some Kaylee knew, some she didn't. Everyone laughed. Everyone cried. It was good in the worst way. After the service, Kaylee and her mother were the last ones left besides her grandmother. Kaylee held the large urn, her grandma the small one. The door to the funeral home opened, and Kaylee held her breath with anticipation for Panera Pariah's arrival. Unfortunately, it was only the funeral director ushering them out so he could prepare the room for the next service. As they hugged goodbye, Kaylee's mother eyed the small urn in Grandma's hands. She twisted her wedding ring, her hands empty. Kaylee stopped her grandma at the door. He's supposed to come home with us. He promised. Grandma shook her head, looked at the wedding ring on Kaylee's mother's finger, then the wedding ring on her own finger. 6 years since Grandpa passed, and her hand never went without it. Not halfway, Kaylee said. All the way. Kaylee brushed the hair off her mother's face and kissed her cheek. She whispered in her mother's ear, Panera Pariah wears white to funerals, owns two of everything, and her love is enough to keep everyone together. The end. Thank you, everybody, for letting me do that. And whoever let me go first, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. What a great reading. Yes, so if you enjoy Mario's work, the chapbook is amazing. I'll say that. It does include his Chestnut Flash, Tuesday May Never Come, which I think was in volume 4 somewhere way back when. But yes, thank you so much for joining us from the park, the windy park. It looks it's pretty gnarly out there, but the audio was good. So yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we have Andrea Thuray-Rotnam Indesha with gender questioning in the end times.
All right, thank you. And great job with my crazy long name. So thank you. That was awesome. All right, so gender questioning in the end times. August stews the tide pools on Tybee. Every puddle is a bath by 9 a.m. Sunshine bakes a beached horseshoe crab, belly up. I tow over the black helmet of its body, revealing a clutch of eggs under shell. Watch it sashay down shore, a waltz of legs, recalling the soup of ancient seas. I suspect I am not exactly a girl early on. I see my life sprawl into positions, unlike mother fussing rooms into order, Nyagmama rolling dough for walnut vaguely, Ayamama mending sorry seams, aunties pollinating buds of gossip at dinner parties, mother-bound classmates swaddled in worry, latchkey cousins slipping the boundaries of their lawns. Mine is a different liberation, a certain otherness like the undersounds dogs hear, the hidden spectrums of nectar-seeking birds, the taste of the world flickering along the tongue of a snake or trundling on living fossil legs. Slipping into the warming Atlantic, I admit, I've been too buoyant for diving. Breasts are the kind of lifesavers that kept me from serious steps. Now, scientists say we are in the middle of the 6th extinction. Every day holds space for new deaths. This home is fruitful with endings. Superocean Panthalassa was a theater for ghosts rounding the stage of Pangea. Every handful of silt a slaughterhouse floor. Still, I can't imagine a better place than that ancient earth. The drowsy ocean snug against the unparted land. Every life form a neighbor, an Eden where all living things were whole. These days, I sense the need to slip over borders like wind, like water. My boundaries are drawn differently from women and men. Like Pangea, I am everything all at once. I can wear the skin of any wet-eyed artist following the path of the setting sun, wondering at the hues my eyes never evolved to see. When I'm 5 fingers old, I paint a dinosaur with every color in my palette. When the teacher wonders, I say it's not a boy or a girl. Later, I press close to the table fan, refreshing the nursery, and call myself a boy, just to hear the sound in the cooling room. The blades turn my words round and round into the universe, and I say to the fan, I am a girl too. I am a daughter son, will be a husband wife, a mother father. When I turn 37, my niece will name me Uncle Drea. I will sometimes sign my name Mr. These are the smallest liberations seeded into my soft tissues. Then, when earth swallows the spines of its mountains, I will untether from the cradles that confined my mother and announce my will to exist. Like the crabs of Panthalassa, I will persevere into the depths, shed my buoyant shell, and carrying my family on my back, will find the deep clefts of a new paradise, a Pangea of the bodies where nothing is broken apart. Thank you.
I thank you, Andrea. That was really, really beautiful. Yeah, I love the chat. Like you guys are going off. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. I know we have a prose heavy kind of reading today. So it's good to have a little poetry in there. So this is Patrick Joseph Kawali with Tong Tong Tong.
Hi, everyone. Just want to thank Praise for working with me on the story and any of the other kind of readers and editors who kind of went through my manuscript and made it possible to get published with Chestnut Group. So thank you. So I'll just read kind of the opening section of the story. Uh, Tong, tong, tong. After arriving at the airport and waiting through the near standstill Manila traffic, Tara and I found our way to the hotel and booked a room together. Now we lay naked in bed as if we were no longer strangers but lovers. The room smelled of generic lavender, and the dimly lit modern light fixtures kept the darkness at bay. The walls, once white, had yellowed with age and were bordered by brown, like an old colonial home from the distant Spanish past, now cooled by air conditioning. In the distance outside, the Pacific waves gently crashed against the night. Tara leaned her head into me and whispered a tune. Tong, 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 tong. It's about a crab, Tara said, a simple nursery rhyme. Her hand mimicked the motions of a crustacean crawling up my arm, each finger a tiny leg, stepping to the distinct beat, pakitong kitong. Big, delicious, but tricky to catch, she continued. The crab lunged for my shoulder, pinching my earlobe. It bites. I don't remember that one, I said, wincing. I filed through childhood memories, searching for that crab, trying to remember what it was like before my parents whisked me away to the States. The only nursery rhyme that came to mind was about a hut, made of bamboo and leaves. I had already forgotten the lyrics. That's a different one, Tara said, caressing my ear between a finger and thumb. The crab is no longer a crab, but her smooth, delicate hand. You're too American now, she teased in Tagalog. Americano. This was my first time to the Philippines since my parents had died. My father in a car crash, followed shortly by my mother from a heart attack. My mother always insisted on being buried in the same cemetery as her relatives in the Philippines. We have a whole plot all to ourselves. She would brag as if tombstones were trophies, a row of them on public display. My father didn't have a grave in mind, so he ended up in a small additional lot alongside my mother's family. He was always that way, so caught up in appeasing his wife's wishes that he never got his own. He would say, a happy wife, a happy life. I wondered if it was the same for the two of them in the afterlife, whether either of them were happy, or if happiness was even possible. Their funerals were 5 years ago, the last time I had been in my home country. Before that, my last time in the Philippines was when I was 2, leaving for the States with vague memories and mistranslated nursery rhymes. I was too American now. Tara was right. I didn't remember much at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that reading. Sorry, my cat is. Yes, I really love this piece. I did not read it until I was putting the issue together, but I was really struck by just like everything about it. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, so thank you for the reading. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's like a great piece. If you have a chance, please go and read the longer works because we only have the opportunity to present a small segment of them, but they're just fantastic. All right. Um, Next up is Allison Field Bell with No Promises.
Hi. Thanks so much for this. This is so cool. I've never been part of just like such an intimate launch party. It's really nice. Nice to hear people read. And thank you so much to the Chestnut Review editors for including this piece. This does have like content warning, so for domestic violence. Okay, no promises. The book he hurled across the room at me, the glass mason jar he smashed to the floor in the kitchen, the door he slammed in the bedroom, the door he slammed in the living room, the time he pushed up against me, not quite touching, but close enough to feel his heartbeat across the distance between us. He always promises he won't do it again. He says we belong together, but the pre-violence. This is how I describe it to my therapist, pre-violence. She's quiet, thoughtful. She asks if I feel safe. I tell her, of course I do. He wouldn't hurt a fly, I say. She says, I say, a door is not a fly. A fly is alive. It's different. It's like the trick I play in my head on an airplane when I picture the wing tearing off and the whole hulk of metal plunging down to the earth. Because I've imagined it crashing, it absolutely won't. Just like because I have considered that his pre-violence is violence, it absolutely is not. It is not. It is not. I explain this to my therapist. She uses the phrase domestic violence. I laugh. I'm not a door, I say. I'm not a book. I'm not a mason jar. She isn't laughing. I look out the window of her office. Across the street, there's a lone shopping cart piled with clothes. It's strange to have a window in a therapist's office. Too much outside when you're trying to deal with the inside. My therapist is saying something, but all I can hear is the sound of the recycling truck somewhere beyond this room, the sound of bottles breaking, the mason jar on the tile, 100 silver slivers. I was barefoot. A sliver landed on top of my foot. The skin there so tender that when I tried to wipe it off, it cut me, a light line of blood. I think about his face when he broke the jar, so much anger. Before him, I could not fathom that much anger, but now I'm used to it. Is that love? I ask my therapist, and she shakes her head violently. She is adamant: abuse, domestic violence. Those are the only words she knows today, lacking in creativity. I've heard this said about the word fuck. It shows a lack of creativity. I look out the window again. The shopping cart is still there, abandoned. To my therapist, I say, he says we belong together, and he always promises. But she stops me mid-sentence. She's had enough of me today. She says the words again: abuse, domestic violence. I sigh. She wants me to break up with him, but I've never broken up with anyone. What would happen if I did the breaking? How lovely to fit a life into a shopping cart. How simple. I know it's not true at all, but the thought comforts me. To leave with nothing but a shopping cart, to break, to leave. I don't know what's true anymore. I close my eyes. I imagine putting my body there inside the shopping cart. I imagine it rolling away down the street and then onto a dirt path into a forest. I imagine the safety of the metal around me. I imagine the forest, so tall and quiet, soft barked redwoods, spongy forest floor, A jar would not break there. No doors to slam, no books, no men, no promises. Thank you.
And just the way that you arrive at that last line, yeah, it's just wonderful. Yeah. This story got me when I was putting the issue together in the airport, and then I was looking around like, okay, people are gonna see me cry. Like, it's okay, just keep your eyes in your laptop. Yeah, thank you so much for your reading. Um, all right, so next up is Deb Malio Banyo with A House on Fire.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here, and this is such a beautiful issue, and I'm very honored to be a part of this. So I'll be reading this poem, A House on Fire. The day I walk past my old neighborhood, a house is on fire. I remember it all too well. The weeded walls, the family that moved out when their girl got sick, the backyard I would trespass, hoping to run into her. Wait under the jamun tree in the vermilion dusk, a hive of mosquitoes gathering over me like a sharpened memory. No one arrived to answer my little crime, but a decade and a half later, my body still recalls how anticipation had shattered my heart. What did I learn of waiting from the house? Of giving my abandoned hopes over to fire? Chagrin smashed over my floorboards like light bulbs. Small explosions in numberless small towns. Something kept falling over my own debris all these years, stayed in me like a season's leftover, like Hamlet fog. Was it rain or regret freckled over cheeks of glass? Damp and devious, I crept beyond my teenage, past my fallible heart in the language of moss. When it ached with alone, I pretended desire was a borrowed thing, a myth whispered in a bar, sparks smoldering out of an abandoned house. Yet I waited for someone to rush in, to discover my beautiful burnt hands. Thank you.
Just that ending, Toronto. Thank you so much for sharing. It was a beautiful reading. Such a good poem. All right. So, Alicia, thank you for saying you're here kind of in disguise. So we have Alicia go to you with tonally completely different. Supposing Cancer is a leopardess.
Hi, everyone. Supposing Cancer is a leopardess after Igor Altuna's holding on. Somewhere in South Luangwa's valley, a monkey clings to its mother's lifeless trunk, her baboon body swinging from the black mouth of a leopardess, serene and green-eyed, sleek spotted bullet, splitting yellow savanna. Dead mother dangles like baby herself, stiff from pinched scruff, limbs stretched wide and reaching, her limp neck rubbered with need. And leopardess, a mother too, her own baby's small black mouth of hungry teeth, open wide in wait for tiny beating heart to fall like fruit and slice Savannah's yellow skin with blood. Now, supposing leopardess is lung cancer, her jaws, the quick black end. Supposing my mother's skin was like this, jaundiced, waxy, lifeless, and just before the end, her bile, jewel bright beneath hospital light, peridot in kidney pan pink as a pacing mouth, its waiting teeth. And on that final night, her face, serene with death, my cheek pressed to her silent chest, still warm enough to pass for living. Supposing I am child again, clinging in gold brocade chair beside the old front door, her stocking feet on sky blue nap, voice vibrating bony rungs of rib between each incandescent drag. And in the moments before, a match. Then black, gaping jaw, closed eye, bare tree. Thank you.
No, that's such a beautiful poem. Thank you so much for your reading. Andrea, yeah, it's a perfect comment, right? It's so tangible and it's told through such a great vehicle, like just something that is completely unexpected. So thank you for sharing your work. Thank you for coming today. Um, yeah. So I we have a really wonderful, this is another longer story. So I really encourage you to get with the issue later and read the rest of it. So we're going to get an excerpt today from Cleaning Girls by Cassie Blair.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm really grateful to to the readers and the editors, especially Brooke, who worked with me on this story, multiple iterations. And I'll just read the beginning, the first 500 words or so. Cleaning girls. We were cleaning girls together at the Hideout Inn, a bed and breakfast and retreat center in the Ponderosa Pine Forest, 20 miles west of where I lived in Rock Creek. Fran lived closer to work in a gated community called Cathedral Pines. Her house was massive, with a white stone exterior and marble floor entryway. Most vividly, I remember the basement, the pull-out sofa and the big screen TV, and the bathroom where Fran tried to scrub Natalie's blood out of the carpet. I taught Fran everything she needed to know about cleaning. When she started at the Hideout, her first job, I'd been there 3 years already, saving for college and helping my mom pay bills. Every Wednesday and Thursday after high school and every Saturday, I punched in, tied on an embroidered apron, and picked up a chicken scratch to-do list from Jared, the owner, who always ended lists with an apology. Room 4 through 9 and 11, conference 2 reset, dinner 15 people, patio hot tub, sorry. A shy, frazzled man, Jared rushed around the property in flip-flops, the only shoes I ever saw him wear. I liked that he left me alone to do my work. I knew how to clean a bathroom and push tables together and remake beds with tight, neat corners because I came from a mother who cleaned for a living. I must have been 10 years old when she taught me to scrub the toilet bowl barehanded with a rag and white vinegar, the inside too. Fran came from a mother who offered to pay her to do chores if she wanted to, and she never wanted to, and her family had a maid who cleaned their house anyway. The day she started, I showed her all the basics, like how to work from the outside of the counter into the sink instead of the other way because of germs, and how to fold a fitted bed sheet to match the shape of the top sheet instead of balling it up and stuffing it in the closet. I had to explain dustpans after watching her sweep the patio without one. She looked like a cartoon character golfing, swinging through a haze of dirt. In her first week, Fran exhausted herself trying. She worked in short, earnest bursts, and then she followed me around talking while I cleaned. She talked to me with ease, intimately, like we had been friends for a long time already. Fran said she would apply to the Hideout to get some work ethic before college. Not that college itself would be anything like cleaning, but she wanted to get some perspective. She kept calling it the real world. While I made beds, she talked about the future, and she talked about her sister Natalie. She's gorgeous, like Naomi Watts, except skinnier, she said. I thought Naomi Watts was already skinny, and I thought Fran was beautiful the way girls with money often are, born into rituals that become effortless, and inclined from a young age to match accessories, to have accessories. Fran had long, wavy hair, perfect beach hair by my landlocked standards, and heavy-lidded green eyes that made her look a little bored if it wasn't for her gap-tooth smile underneath. Thank you.
Cassie, I really appreciate your piece, the way that it kind of unspools these relationships and like deals with these things with class without kind of like, I don't know, bashing us in the face with it. But there's so many little things that are just subtly different. And I think that really adds to the strength of the relationship, but also like the flaws in the central friendship between the two girls. So yeah, thank you so much for your reading. It was really great to hear some of your piece. So now we have Alexandra Puzo with Kaddish or Eating.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say that I really love hearing everybody's pieces, like such beautiful, beautiful work. And I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from my piece, Kaddish or Eating. In late November of 2019, a few weeks after my grandmother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, she called me into her room, closed the door, and asked if I would help her kill herself. "You're the only one I can trust," she said, near whispering. It was evening, so there was not much light. What light there was filtered through orange blinds and a deep red lampshade, encasing us in red and shadow, as if we sat in the embers of some dying fire. I don't remember much of what I had said to her since her diagnosis a few weeks earlier. I only remember leaving every conversation angry with myself over what I said or didn't say. There was a lot I didn't say. But what do you say to a person who knows they're going to die? What do you say? "Okay," I said. "Okay." I try to write my grandmother's death. I write a story about a girl whose grandmother asked her to kill her. The girl goes to New York City and sits on a bench. There is something about a faded old photograph. The story is terrible, and I delete it. I write a poem. I write dreams I wish I'd had. I write an essay. I write about going into Macy's, sitting on the floor, and crying. I write a lot about crying because I'm crying a lot. In a workshop, someone highlights the scene and comments, "Okay, we get it. You're sad." I delete the scene. Writing about my grief seems silly and sentimental and self-absorbed. I'm not a 19-year-old crying about my dead grandma on American Idol. I am 27. I am almost 30. Who do I think I am? Temporal organization of my memory eludes me. Past and present tense become interchangeable. I take inventory. I make lists. I remember things she taught me. Here's how to make a soft-boiled egg, how to weigh yourself every day, how to stand up straight, breast forward, how to be so beautiful and sure that nothing anyone says or does can ever hurt you. My mom and I went out to lunch at a hot pot restaurant in Northern Boulevard. We piled thinly sliced ribeye and enoki mushrooms into the simmering, cloudy broth. We sat uncomfortably close to another family, and I told her about our conversation. "You're kidding me," she said, eating a mung bean sprout. She asked me the same thing. She said the same thing to both of us. "You're the only one I can trust." We laughed together, but I also felt a slight constriction at the back of my throat. I felt half betrayed. I wondered how many other people she had asked. This one last private moment between us had been whisked away, an illusion broken. But I was also half relieved. I tried to picture us together, the three of us, then just the two with a body in between, her body. I remember her through the body. I remember her nakedness and mine. I remember her breasts, large and bottom heavy, out as she got ready in the morning, and mine, barely formed, pressed against my knees in the bath. NPR on the radio, soft light. I'd watch her from the bathtub. "Hold your breath while I spray," she'd say as she set her hair. But the light-headed plastic scent of the hairspray lingered, clinging to the oxygen molecules in the air, suffocating them. And after, her short blonde curls perfectly coiffed like a 60s movie star, she would dress. About a month before she died, right before her diagnosis, we sat on the porch of our family's lake house in upstate New York. The house is perched on a hill overlooking the small lake, and the porch is all open windows. She was smoking something, or maybe she wasn't. She had a blanket across her lap, or maybe she didn't. My memory is failing. It is fractured. There is no chronology, no geography. I am afraid half of what I remember is completely made up or half dreamt. "It's so beautiful," she said. I am sure she said this. I'll miss this. It was early October and the leaves were mid-change. A breeze came through the open window. "I don't want to die," she said. Or maybe she didn't. "I want to stay here with all of you." Maybe she said it a few weeks earlier in the dining room. I said something comforting and wise. Or maybe I didn't say anything at all. Thank you.
Okay, well, this is another piece that I hope everybody has gone out and read the whole thing, or that you will maybe sometime this weekend or later. It's just really, really, really beautiful work. Right. So we did have three poets sign up who I guess could not be here today. So I would like to give breath to their work. So I've been running around trying to get backup readers, and I'm really, really, really thankful to the editors that answered the call. So without further ado, I'm going to read the first piece because, yeah, so this is Paramilarian Jacobs, Saraband for O. Two bodies face to face are at times two waves. Octavio Paz. Into you I go like a sermon. There is a garden party in your pupils. What strand of light were you culled from? Your hips, swaying lily. I plucked your ribs like a heart and watched you entice the trees till every bud split into promise and song. The promise of bee to nectar, the promise of knife to ginger, the knot of your tongue and mine, untangle only to whisper prayer into the windy noon, unfolding like a pamphlet we will forget to read. The sun's dialect, seeping into the plumbagos, sets loose a blue optimism over the world. I found a river inside the salmon. I believe in the resurrection. Okay. So we have a really challenging and visual poem next up that's going to be read by Praise Osuaru, our new prose editor. Um, it's called Why Our Bodies Sought Asylum in Water Jeans.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll be reading Why Our Bodies Sought Asylum in Water Jeans by Emmanuel Umeji. Genocide, 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 genocide. Our gene was made. Genocide, 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 genocide. With loose glue. Genocide, 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 genocide. Against bullets. Genocide, genocide, genocide. And there is a hole in our species. Genocide. Genes. Genocide. Where the massacre sneaked in. Genocide. Genes. Genocide. On the news, you hear of men. Genocide. Gens. Genocide. Migrating to the Nile for asylum. Genocide. Genocide. At least, what birth sorts should kill us? Genocide. Genocide. Without pain or blood. Genocide. 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 Just our bodies drowning. Genocide. 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 Into the quietude and softness of water. Genes. Genocide. And onto the feet of our God. Genes. On void. Genocide. Perhaps water is another wormhole. Genocide. Genocide. Leading into another universe. Genocide. Genes. Genocide. Where we won't be called black gens. Outside. Gene. Genocide. Genocide. Black things. Genocide. Genocide. Melts. Genocide. 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 That's it. Thank you all for listening.
Grace, thank you for reading. That really does justice to this poem. Yeah, it's just a beautiful. And if you look at the format, right, the background is kind of faded, and the text is in bold. So yeah, it's just a fantastic poem. All right. Next up is our poetry. Hey. Next up is our poetry editor, Luke, with Preparing the Salt by Kathleen Noonan.
In warmer months, you suffered the hills, heaved sludge buckets, and filled the caravans. Sea mud from tidal pools set the dough. By winter, you scrape and trowel and gather crystals from the cistern walls. Notice how the sand still pines for slime, her hilly coat of flea-speckled kelp. First time, then flame. Beyond the season's fog, blue fires of dried tangle dot the shore, making mounds of ashen crust. Netted ocean overgrowth, nightmare, affliction, neutralized as you crumb the briny cinder into the cave's walls molt. After pestle, after mortar. Sow satchels for the bridge of your tears, Kier hearth, line sills, circle every corner.
All right. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the backup emergency readings. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the writers really wanted to be here. So I'm glad that we could give voice to their work. Now there are other amazing works in the issue, so I hope that you can check them out. We have a former Chestnut contributor, Ashish Singh, who wrote 19 in Hindu in a prior issue, and he has a poem called "I've Always Wanted to Write a Poem on Cock." We have Jodi Ballas's Comfort Food. We have it's a kind of comic graphic novel called Floor the Gothic. And of course, like the amazing artwork from the issue. So without further ado, we're going to move into the second half of our launch. So yes, feel free to unmute yourselves. You can ask questions to the other artists or to the staff. And we're here and happy to just have a discussion, and don't be shy. Whatever you feel moves you. Yes. Well, I know that it could be a little, so I'll start off. I have a question for Alicia. Yes, yes, I know, right? It's like a
Wasn't
yes.
expecting that.
Yeah.
Fire away.
No, I've seen so many poems about grief and about cancer in our queue. Which makes sense, right? But this leopardess idea, like just juxtaposing those two things, I think there's something so sort of muscled and visceral about the presence of cancer in your poem. And I'm wondering about how that came to be and what sort of inspired it. Yeah.
I explained a little bit in the artist statement how the idea for this came about on my social media feed in one of those random posts with and the photo, I don't know if you all saw that, just really, I mean, and apparently, the BBC even got into trouble for running that photo without a trigger warning because it truly is. It's a very upsetting photo. That being said, it's a nature photo. I mean, this is so. It's interesting to me, philosophically, just kind of as people, how we as humans tend to uh, anthropomorphize nature. When the sad reality, I think that we all confront when faced with death, is that nature doesn't really care about your feelings. Um, it's unfortunate, but it's true. And I think especially the physical fact of death, if you've ever watched someone die, the body works very hard to stay alive. It's violent and upsetting. And those moments stay with you. So I think as writers and artists, we tend to get very sentimental about topics like death, about the emotions that we have when we're navigating grief, and we want to kind of sugarcoat it or skip to the good part. Let's get to the part where we discuss our memories and we discuss the happy things, and we just kind of want to gloss over the violence that I think is natural to death. And that for me is something that not just in my art, but I think psychologically, I try to avoid doing because you pass over, I think, an important element of grief, which is that clear-eyed confrontation with the reality of it. And it's something that I think I've noticed in a lot of the grief pieces in this issue, there's so much courage on display with the treatment of this topic, which I think can get, again, overly sentimental very easily. But for me, yeah, that really was just the violence of it, and yet the indifference. And how do we process that? And for me, that was, just that you have to let go whether you like it or not. And if you don't, nature will make the choice for you. So anyway, thank you. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Like there's so much that just like that brought up for me. And yeah, absolutely, right? We see a lot of sentimental takes on grief. And unfortunately, as editors, right, we pass on a lot of sentimental takes on grief, right? So yeah, hearing your words is just really yeah. Um
I have a question for Alex, actually. So in your artist statement, you had this great line, which was, um, what I realized while writing this is that memory becomes a series of craft decisions. And I would love to hear you delve a little deeper into how the process of that realization and how writing that piece kind of led you to that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when I first started writing this piece, it was like right after my grandma died. So there was like, I was kind of writing it through very linearly, and I was just like, writing the scenes, as they were coming. And then I took a break from it because it was becoming overly sentimental. And I needed to get kind of that um removal. And then once I sat with it for a while, and I realized about how it's not just what happened on a literal level. It's about how we replay these specific things that happen and how we change them possibly, or like focus on specific things, and what that really reveals about how we see the circumstance rather than how the circumstance actually is, and how memory kind of just like plays tricks on us. And I just thought that kind of being more honest about how, like, it's not just a linear experience, and it's about how we're thinking about it, and we're replaying it, and and how that affects us going forward. I just think that became really, really interesting to me, and writing this really helped me realize that. And now I think about it a lot, about a lot of stuff that I remember, from my childhood, and I'm like, well, is this really how it happened? Am I like creating a narrative out of that didn't really exist? Yeah, so I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to a lot of like the tension of writing a creative nonfiction piece too. So thank you.
have a question. Just because I'm not a poet, a question for Allison. Such a beautiful, such a compelling poem, and I wonder if you could speak a little bit more to your decisions, like about the form. There's obviously for me kind of like a compression, which made the juxtaposition, I think, between the like interior thoughts and like looking out the window, and just dealing with the question of violence itself. But as a non-poet, I'm curious if you could just speak more to your decisions about the piece on the page.
Yeah, thanks, Cassie. It's funny to I feel like reading this, it does like it is like lyrical like a poem. I was kind of thinking of it as a flash. But for me that is like a really I don't know, there's like a gray area there between I feel like I have a lot of prose poems that like sometimes I sort of submit them as flash, sometimes I submit them as poetry. And this one I always sort of thought of as flash, but I think with the help of the editors, like sort of compressing it even more, I think it does kind of distill down to read like a prose poem. I think in terms of the form, like a lot of for me, I think when I'm writing something like this, which is like very auto-fictional, it a lot of it has to do with voice, and I let that sort of dictate the form. So these like prose blocks, it tends to be like what happens when I am not when I'm sort of in that like voicey auto-fictional mode. I end up doing these like intense sort of prose blocks where it feels like I feel like the compression of it and like the shape of it adds the intensity of the voice in my head as well. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question. Like I think lineating it is an interesting idea, but a lot of my prose poem things are more autofictional, and I just naturally kind of gravitate towards that blocky form. Because it feels like claustrophobic, which I think interiority, maybe it's just my own brain, but I think it's like my brain feels claustrophobic sometimes. So like I feel like that reflects in the form as well.
Well, I think that works so well with the subject of the Flash and also the
I'm
huge.
coming.
Oh, hi, Emmanuel. Hi. It's so great to have you here. We read your poem, actually praise read your poem and did an awesome job. But yeah, I do have a question for you in a bit. But yeah, so Allison, the juxtaposition of like this trapped feeling in the therapist's office and then the movement of the shopping cart, right? It was just so strong kinetically. Because I think that sometimes when we have this kind of stilted, like we're stuck in a room or we're stuck in a something, it just feels flat. But I think that contrast really made the piece come alive. There's like this kinetic sense of something starting, something being in motion. And I love that it's not neat, right? It's not like, okay, we're told, okay, now I'm going to go out and break up and do all these things. But like in the imagination, we can imagine, okay, something needed to proverbially get the ball rolling. And I think that in this case, the shopping cart is like a strong signifier of that. So I really appreciate that about the piece, aside from its emotional impact, of course. Emmanuel, can you hear us? How are you?
Hello.
Hi. We love your poem. Everybody was really shook, I think is really the only word that we can, yeah. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about the process that you had for coming up with this poem and the format, right? I've never seen a poem where the text is faded out and then there's text in bold that's really like offset. So we'd love to hear just any thoughts that you have.
Thank you so much for this honor of publishing my work. Um, why our body sought asylum in war that have going to be one of my speculative poetry so far. I was just there. It was a Sunday evening. I had read Carnival of Red Roses by Zainab Ilyasubuhi, and I was part of the bloodshed, the pain, the grief, and everything. It was striking, and I had this dream validation from a dream match. I got accepted into a magazine that they gave me to get accepted into. So with that inspiration, that news, that force, I was pushed to do something extraordinary. I just try to experiment how much I can give the world what they are not expecting, and I just feel so excited that it's actually a fit that in. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Like, yeah, we were all just really, it's such a powerful poem. And I appreciated the audio reading that's attached, which I think was done by one of our editors, but also Grace's reading today. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you here if we don't have more questions or things we want to talk about. But yeah, does anybody have any questions for our staff, our editors? We have a pretty good sampling here today. So yeah.
I had a question jumping back on for Allison Bell. Allison, I know you got a chapbook coming out this year, if I'm correct. Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, thanks, Mario. I have two. I have a poetry chapbook and a creative nonfiction chapbook, both coming out this year. And the poetry one is it's kind of a combination of these like prose pieces that I was talking about, and kind of woven in with more traditional lineated poems, not traditional in a formal sense. And then the creative nonfiction is my work is kind of like all sort of a like variation of autofiction in a way. So I feel like the creative nonfiction really embraces like some fictional strategies as well. And yeah, the creative nonfiction one is coming out from Cut Bank Books, and it's called Edge of the Sea. And then the poetry one is coming out from Finishing Line Press, and it's called Without Woman or Body. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of your work, and I can't wait to read the books and see them in the world. So, congrats.
Thanks. Same to you.
Yeah, I'll definitely be doing the same. Thank you for that, Mario. All right. Well, if nobody has further thoughts, I'm not going to keep us here on Zoom just staring at each other. But thank you so much for a great launch. Thank you for your talent and your work. You're part of Chestnut now. So if you are interested in getting involved, sometimes we have things that we do, and we'll be at WP in about 2 months. So if you want to stop by the booth and come see us, if you have books or other things that you want to sell or you want to do a signing there, we're here for you. And Samira, who is our communications manager, would love to hear from you if you have news, if you get published somewhere else, if you have something coming out. We always love to promote our artists. So thank you so much for another great and successful issue. And of course, 2 years from now, we hope to see more of your creative work. Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great day.